Thank you.
We're gonna go over next hour some of the new stuff that we're gonna be posting up on the website. Like I was saying before, all of this except for one of the items here is stuff that y'all have looked at before. So we're probably not gonna go into crazy detail until we get to well, Jeremy. I won't. I know you can say what you have made if you would like.
So here, I just put a link in the chat, but here on the screen, you can see our website, dndtime.stream. This is a place you can find all sorts of information about the show that we run, Pete and Jeremy's D&D Time. We run that every Friday, and about this show, Fantasy Labs, which we run on Sundays. So what you can do, if you would like, though, this is on the mobile view right now. It looks a little different on a full-size web browser, but you can click on Menu and jump down to a Fantasy Labs tab, and that'll bring you over to our Fantasy Labs page, where you can see all of the cool content that we've created. We have a bunch of stuff from D&D Time Bruce, but we've also have all of our new content that we've released on here now, all of our various new subclasses, the 3 Bardic colleges, which will bring you to the DM's Guild where those are available. Some new Druid Circle, a new Druid Circle, the Circle of Eyes, which I'm excited to talk about a little bit here. And the Coven Otherworldly Patron, the Great Nupal for Genie, which again is on the DM's Guild, Otherworldly Patron, and the Great Tree Patron, all that we've recently released and are now available. Just click it and it'll bring you right to them.
Yeah, we got a big stack.
We also officially now have a class option on the website. Not a full class, but it's some interesting variant options for the Ranger. We talked about this a very, very long time ago, and we're going to dig into them more in a minute. But remember, folks, share our stuff with people that you think might like it, because we put a lot of effort into it. You guys, all have a say in helping to put it together and, through the show. And yeah, we just really appreciate it if you shared it with people that you think might like it.
Likewise, if you use it, tell us how it went.
Please.
Yeah, let us know that you used it, because that'll just be nice to know what people were being interested in the most. But also just tell us how it goes, so that way we can make improvements and be like, oh wow, yeah, we tried out this feature that you guys put in there, and it completely destroyed my game for these reasons. That's great information for us to have too. Although
hopefully it doesn't do that.
I like to think that nothing that we've made has that kind of potential on it, but you never know sometimes.
I mean, the genie with its wishes.
That's a fair point, but that's kind of has an asterisk on it when we made it. Like,
Frog was saying none of the off-the-cuff solstice races. We're not going to put those on the website, Frog, but they'll always be available as like the super secret Pete and Jeremy's D&D Time.
Yeah, secret menu.
Only those in the know. But let's dive in. Let's start talking about some of these. So, as you can see, we've got a whole new format for what our finalized products look like. They're nice. They're pretty. They're all good. They look like something straight out of Xanathar's Guide to Everything or something else. This is my Druid Circle, the Circle of Eyes.
It's got that Xanathar's flavor for sure.
Yeah. And basically the vibe that I was going for with this Druid Circle was that you could transform into crazy aberrant forms. You could kind of tap into the madness of the far realm and use its magic. And so that's what the subclass is all about. Its core kind of mechanical implementation that makes it play differently, because obviously it's got a very different flavor than any of the other druids. But the thing that makes it really play differently is it's all about these kind of hybrid transformations where you can gain things like tentacle arms or worm flesh or lots of eyes. Crazy, yeah, exactly, Pete. Terrifying, aberrant transformations.
We talked about this a little bit last week, but I don't know if we actually showed any of the transformations that you can do.
No, we didn't talk about them in super detail.
Jeremy, do you want to pick out a couple of favorites and just kind of show off like how they actually work mechanically here? Because I really like the design of these transformations. I think it was mentioned briefly. All of them tie in with a cantrip and have the prerequisite you have to have a particular cantrip and then interact with that ability directly. Exactly,
and that's really what's going to make this subclass play very differently from the existing druid subclasses, right? So Arms of the Slimy Ones. Your arms, you need the Thorn Whip cantrip to get this aberrant transformation, or to use this transformation. And your arms transform into lengthy, slime-slathered tentacles. The tentacles can stretch outwards up to 30 feet and have the necessary dexterity to grasp objects up to your carry weight and perform complex tasks, such as the somatic components of spells. Additionally, when you hit a creature with your Thorn Whip cantrip, you may force that creature to make a strength saving throw against your spell save DC, becoming grappled until the end of your next turn on a failure. And then when you reach 10th level in the class, you can use your tentacles to deliver the effects of certain spells. Your druid spells with a range less than 30 feet can be cast out to a range of 30 feet. So it's a very fun, if you want to go that really spellcaster focused druid, this is a really fun way of, I've got freaking cool tentacle arms and I can cure wounds at a range of 30 feet and do all sorts of ridiculous, crazy stuff.
Can I talk about Legs of the Bladewalkers? Because that's a personal favorite of mine.
Oh, please, Pete, take it away with the Legs of the Bladewalkers.
Legs of the Bladewalkers requires the Primal Savagery cantrip. And one thing to know about this, these are, you use your wild shape to take on one of these forms.
Yes, exactly. And at early levels, you can only assume these forms while you're still you, so you just become a person with tentacle arms. But at higher levels, you can become like a bear with tentacle arms. You can kind of merge it with your wild shape.
That's one of the wilder things. I really like the idea of picking some of the smaller creatures and just being like, I'm a spider with massive 30-foot tentacle. There's some stupid stuff that you can do. But anyway, Legs of the Bladewalkers is one that I really like, which is chitinous blade-like legs erupt outwards from your back. The legs are simple limbs up to 10 feet long, which suspend your body up to 5 feet in the air and can be used for simple tasks such as jabbing at objects. While in this form, opportunity attacks against you are made with disadvantage. Additionally, you can use these legs to make melee spell attack of the Primal Savagery cantrip, dealing an extra 1d6 slashing damage on a hit. And then at 10th level, when you reach 10th level in this class, you become well accustomed to the Legs of the Bladewalkers. Your speed increases by 10 feet, and you gain a climbing speed equal to your walking speed. Additionally, you can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without needing to make an ability check while leaving your hands free. So you get kind of a spider climb there from the Legs of the Bladewalkers, which makes sense for such a thing.
You're kind of Doc Ock in it.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking of Doc Ock. I was going to make that same comparison. Those are some of the transformations that are in this, which I think you crushed it on the flavor. I mean, I like the mechanics of them, but also they're just very flavorful.
Yeah, and the big thing I really like about this is, for someone who's played a druid a couple of times, I've played a full campaign as a druid in 5e, and I love the druid, and its subclasses are cool and all, but the druid is a druid is a druid is a druid. There's not a lot of differences with their spells that you could pick that would make them, I think, play super differently from one another. Besides maybe the moon druid, because it's all about just being beasts.
Yeah.
And I think this could be a really fun way to have some uniqueness in your playstyle. So check it out.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's anything else that you want to talk about on the Circle of Eyes, Jeremy?
I mean, it's available for free, so check it out on the website. Let us know how you feel. Share it. Share links, please. We'd appreciate it.
Likewise, even if I was talking before about if you guys play it, let us know what you think and then how it went.
Yeah.
Also, if you just read it through and you have thoughts on it, also please share those thoughts with us as well.
We've got a playtest feedback link. I broke Chrome. We got a playtest feedback link in all of our content. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you get a chance to play it, awesome. If you don't and just read it, we'd still like to hear your thoughts.
Indeed. Let's
also, all of our content now is going to have this nice little thing at the very end, our content to date, which provides kind of a library of all of the stuff we've previously done. So, yeah, easy to find.
Very very quick and easy access. What's next, Jeremy?
Pete, we have the otherworldly patron, the Coven. This is something Pete put together.
Oh yeah, this is my guy.
Some time ago now. It's been a while.
Yeah, it was a while ago that I came out with the Coven. But here it is now in a beautiful polished form that Jeremy has made it look beautiful, as he always does.
Always do.
But do you want to start walking us through it here, Jeremy?
Pete, why don't you tell me? I just talked all about the Druid. Pete, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Coven?
I'd love to. I was almost implying more. Just scroll down so we can start looking at this. Maybe. Coven is a Warlock patron, which uses a witch's coven, which is kind of a unique patron in the sense that you have 3 beings that are your patron rather than just one entity, and they're also maybe a little bit easier to find, like kind of a lower level challenge than a lot of patrons, which is discussed in the subclass to some extent. There's this little flavor thing on here called Coven's Curse, where you get one of these at your option flavorful little things to tack on. I know one that a couple of people were a big fan of was Babies Begin to Cry When You Come Too Near, which is one that I know folks were a fan of. One that I personally liked was If You Laugh Too Heartily, You Have a Terrible Fit of Coughing and Wheezing, which is just relatable maybe in real life too.
Really.
It's a little flavor option if you're interested in that sort of thing to make you feel more like you have that hag vibe. But other than that, you get some cool stuff from this. You get, your standard spells. You get an Eye of the Coven. You get a tool that you're able to just basically a physical eye that you're able to hold and then see out of like you would through a familiar, but it's an object that you can like place in different places and stuff. So that's kind of a fun tool. You get some druid rituals because you know that witches are always up to all sorts of rituals. And there's a feature here, Toil and Trouble, that lets you brew potions. You get to turn stuff into toads. You get a flying broomstick if you get far enough into it. It's a fun class. So if you like the flavor of hags in 5th edition, then you'll probably like some of the features you get from this.
Just hags in general, even. This is like everything that I could even think of with like, if I wanted to play a character that was a witch, right? It has everything. It's got potions, it's got rituals and rites, right? It's got, you got literally flying on a broomstick and tormenting souls that you trap in your cauldron. It's got the whole shebang. It doesn't got.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to also tie it in a couple of points the lore of hags in 5e2. Like that Eye of the Coven is very much a reference to the way hags, one of the main hag abilities in 5e if you have a coven of them. So
it's a very cool concept too. I love the idea that just sounds like such a fun tool. Like all the rest of the features in this class are awesome, and don't get me wrong, but the Eye of the Coven just feels like to me such a fun tool.
I think so too. I'm gonna play this probably the next time I play a Warlock. I'm gonna see if I can play a Coven Warlock in whatever game is, because I mean I think you're probably the same way, Jeremy. Is oftentimes you make stuff that you want to do, in the game.
If you're not inspired by your own content, thinking of it.
I mean, yeah. That's the hag. I know we talked about this in more detail originally when it first came out. So if you want like our full kind of breakdown on it, there's a video.
Yeah. And our next one is the Great Tree patron for the Warlock. This one's really different from normal Warlocks, as it is the patron is very much this spirit of life, right? This entity of kind of reincarnation, continued existence, and all of that. So this Warlock is really unique from the other Warlocks for that reason. And even beyond that, the playstyle is super different too. It's all about this kind of reincarnation vibe that you've lived thousands of lives in kind of in fulfillment of this pact, and that you have all sorts of cool like past life memories and experiences as a result of it. It's very neat. It took a very long time working on this. We had a big show about it. The features have been revised ever so slightly to accommodate the stuff that we have, or actually pretty substantially in some cases, to accommodate what we discussed on the show. But
so, Jeremy, just to start off with, I have a quick question, because I actually hadn't seen this, I don't know if we had like a meeting about the Great Tree after. Is there anything that's significantly changed from the original Great Tree to where you're at now? Because I remember there being a couple of talking points on it.
Yeah, so the Thousand Lives Pact, and this was listed as a feature at first level. I've moved it to a sidebar instead of as a feature. It's more or less the same. You're reincarnated when you die, and you lose memories of your current life. Pretty straightforward. The idea being, and it's a little bit more than that, right? It's when you die and your body is buried, cremated, or returned to nature. So it's intentionally like written in such a way that if you die and the players are like, oh shit, hey, like don't just bury you or something, they can resurrect you normally. But if there's no way of bringing your character back, well, they got a new life.
Yeah.
So I changed that to a sidebar because it didn't really make sense as a feature. And then what else did I change? I changed I think it's the Weight of Ages feature or the Thousand Lives Pact feature, which you get at 14th level, which then ties back into that sidebar. I made a couple of smaller changes throughout, but yeah, the big changes were in the sidebar at the beginning, and then the feature in the back, which lets you be reincarnated with your memories when you come back.
So Jeremy, can you give me like a quick, for anyone who hadn't seen the Great Tree originally, what's like the elevator pitch? Like, what's the juice of playing the Great Tree?
If you want to play a kind of protector of the natural cycle that isn't very, white knighty paladin, I swing my sword around, and that isn't a yo, peace, man, I'm a druid, I'm turning into animals, then this is your guy to go, right? If you want that Azamar that has existed for millennia and been reincarnated, over and over in pursuit of their almost divine goal or sacred kind of goal here, that's kind of what you can do with this, right? You can take that reincarnation and that multiple lives vibe to a new level. And it even has a kind of like Avatar The Last Airbender kind of avatar state for that level 14 capstone feature, where you get this swirling magic about you and you can mess people up with it, basically.
Yeah, I like the Great Tree. I like where it ended up.
Unique.
Yeah, these are the new ones that we have available. Everything else we've already had up on the DMs Guild for a while, but these three are now officially up on the website. So get at them, use them for what you will. Hopefully they serve you all well. But the last one that we have to talk about here for news content is actually just completely new, and this is something that Jeremy, you've been working on for a little bit now.
It's not completely new. And chat, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this stuff as we're going through it, because this is something that is totally new to you guys in this form. When we first started Fantasy Labs, I think the very first project that I worked on was inspired by a member of our community, After 232. And After had created this kind of table of ranger talents with the idea, this is inspired by the Unearthed Arcana variant ranger class features. Thank you so much for creating those wizards. You've given us all of the liberty in the world to make variant features now. But it was a table of very cool, unique features based on different terrains that when you got to a certain level as a ranger, you could pick some, and then as you leveled up, you could pick some more. And they were all interesting niche things. It'd be like, all right, if you pick the mountain terrain, right, you would gain a climb speed, for example. If you pick the coast terrain, you get a swim speed. And it got a little more niche from there, but they were neat. They were a very cool take, and I was super inspired. And I worked on something way back, and I created that, and I created another ability, which I called Predatory Focus, which is a more combat-oriented feature to replace Favorite Enemy. And I've been playtesting those, actually, Pete. I've been playtesting them for the better part of a year now, believe it or not. I think it's been almost a year in a campaign where I've been playing a ranger. And I've determined that they both suck. Both of my implementations are terrible. Well, the old ones were terrible. And the reason, I think, because of it is just the mechanics I was playing with for the replacement for Favorite Enemy then weren't good. They just were too weird with how they worked, and 2 just directly damage. Like, I'm good at fighting. And then the kind of my take on the explorer's talents that after it started just were too niche, I think.
Yeah.
And so I came up with these guys. This is my new take, and I think these are like legitimately very, very good. They were meant to more closely emulate what the ranger actually gets in the player's handbook for favorite enemy and natural explorer. The intent was to create a kind of spiritual successor to those 2 features that really engaged with the knowledge and exploration aspects of, well, that class fantasy of playing the knowledgeable exploring ranger, right? That people want to play.
That's the dream. That's what I like about the ranger, is that thing, that aspect of it, even though that the first 2 features don't do a good job of it.
And like twist, feel the dirt in your fingers and be like, orcs have been through here. It's, how do you know that?
That's like, it's almost like that's one of the inherent issues with the ranger, is that some of the things that make the ranger cool, the DM has to really like play into them, which is maybe why these features have so much trouble. But I think that these implementations are definitely looking a lot better than the original ones. So Jeremy, do you want to read your ranger's intuition here?
Yeah, so the 2 new features are Ranger's Intuition to replace Favorite Enemy, and Adaptive Explorer to replace Natural Explorer. And again, if you reread Favorite Enemy, you're going to see a lot of similar concepts in Ranger's Intuition, but I feel like Ranger's Intuition is executed in a way that is just more fun to play. And the feature goes, you're quick to learn from your encounters with creatures of certain types and adapt your tactics in kind. When you gain this feature, you choose a creature type to have encountered, which represents your experiences so far. And it lists aberrations, beasts, celestials, constructs, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, giants, monstrosities, humanoids, oozes, plants, or undead.
All of them. All of them.
And the way it works is when you end a combat encounter with a creature, or if you spend at least 1 minute observing or interacting with a creature outside combat, you can learn the creature's type if it is not obscured by magical means and are considered to have encountered that type of creature. You gain advantage on Wisdom Survival and Wisdom Perception checks to track or detect creatures of the type you have encountered. Additionally, creatures of those types cannot gain advantage on saving throws against your ranger spells or abilities. And then at 6th level, you gain advantage on Intelligence checks to recall information about creatures of the types you have encountered. And at 14th level, you have advantage on saving throws against the non-magical abilities of creatures of the types you have encountered. So the idea is, as you kind of learn more experience, like let's say you have, you start out with humanoids, or because you're like, yes, me, I am the ranger and I hate orcs because I'm the most vanilla Dungeons and Dragons character ever, and they burned down my town and killed my family. As you adventure more and you run into oozes, you're going to become more experienced with oozes, and you're going to learn and gain these benefits against oozes. And as you run into dragons, you'll gain these experiences against dragons. And over time, you can kind of gotcha game, collect all of them.
Much more. I mean, I love stuff like that to start with. The collect all the Pokemon is just fun gameplay. But it also does a much better job of reflecting what you're actually doing, rather than the additional feature, which just reflects like it's just what you kind of think that you want.
Exactly.
Like I've definitely seen situations personally where a ranger has picked like leveled up.
Great example.
Leveled up, gotten the ability to choose another thing, and then picked something that they knew that we were going to encounter later. Like they picked giants because they're like, oh, well, I heard we're going to go to a giant castle soon. Even though I've never fought a giant, now I'm really good against those, which kind of makes no sense for flavor-wise. This does a good job of like, representing it.
Favorite enemies that exist in the book doesn't make you better in combat against the creatures.
That's true. It makes you better at tracking them. Only I think... At least the capstone or something, you get...
No, not even.
I thought you got extra damage at the end of the class.
Yeah, that's not against just your favorite enemy. That's against anything.
Are you?
I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Holy shit! If that's favorite enemies, the range was even worse than I thought.
Hold on a second. I need to look this up.
Slayer can't be against just your favorite enemies. Oh my god, it is just against favorite
Yeah,
enemies.
I thought so. It's only you're better against your favorite enemies. So there it is, folks. You heard it here first about Foe Slayer. But the anyway, this feature I think is just a good implementation. Interesting mechanical niche that I just realized, Jeremy. The phrasing of cannot gain advantage on saving throws. Does that mean they can't? If they would have advantage on your saving throw, does that mean that they just make the roll neutrally, or does that mean that they actually just don't get credit for having advantage on the saving throw?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure. I think that's. I think I'd have to read it.
Could this actually nullify a devil's magic resistance, and then they get disadvantage from another source, but it doesn't neutralize because they can't have the advantage to counter?
Yeah, I think they just have the disadvantage.
That's interesting. It's not like I have a problem with that or anything. I just is a
I hadn't
a sub effect of that. I just thought of it now.
The thing that I really love about this personally is spend at least 1 minute observing or interacting with the creature outside combat. I loved the class fantasy I have, right, of the ranger being like, I need to sneak ahead and scout, right? And they sneak up, they're looking over the cliff edge down into the dragon's roost, right? And they see the dragon looking around over its hoard of treasure, right? Bones scattered. And from that minute of observation, right, you're like, I see it moves slowly. I should, right? I should attack its underbelly where it has those scars, or something, to represent why now you're better at fighting it. That just feels fun to me.
There's also I also kind of like with the system, even though you're not necessarily even though you would have spent a minute interacting with humanoids almost for every character before now. I do like the kind of easy, you get a couple of free ones like beasts and humanoids right at the beginning. I look at a bird. All right, I got birds. All right, I got humanoids.
Exactly.
That's actually just kind of fun, even though it's a tiny bit gamey, but I think it's very fun to do, so it's fine.
And then the other feature, Adaptive Explorer, this replaces Natural Explorer, and it is along the same kind of vein as Range of Intuition. The idea is over time, you're going to learn these different terrains as you visit them and spend time in them, and you're going to gain them as terrains that you're good in. So I'll read through it real quick. You're quick to pick up on the means by which creatures survive in the places you travel. When you gain this feature, you choose a terrain to which you are accustomed, which represents your travels so far. And you can choose from Arctic, coast, desert, forest, grasslands, mountain, swamp, or the Underdark. I almost want to include urban, but it wasn't on the official list, so I didn't for now. When you spend 24 hours over over a period of 7 days or fewer, 3 days or fewer, exploring, traveling through, or resting in a terrain, or interacting with its denizens, you can become accustomed to the terrain. And when you gain the following benefits while traveling in terrain to which you are accustomed, and that is, you have advantage on saving throws against the effects of weather and wilderness hazards. Difficult terrain doesn't slow your group's travel, and when you forage, you'll find twice as much food as you normally would. And when you finish a long rest, you can interpret the natural features of your surroundings and learn if you have become lost. These were kind of my takes on the original Natural Explorer features, but revised in a way that is, in my opinion, a lot more fun to play with. And then additionally, becoming accustomed to terrain imparts some of the core aspects of surviving in it. When you become accustomed to a terrain listed on the terrain adaptations table, you gain the survival benefit associated with it. And you can gain each survival benefit only once. And those benefits are, if it's an Arctic or a grassland, your walking speed increases by 5. If it's a coast or a swamp, you gain a swimming speed up to your walking speed. The desert or the Underdark, you gain dark vision out to a range of 60 feet. And forest or mountain, you gain a climbing speed equal to your walking speed. And then at 6th level, you can't be surprised in terrain to which you're accustomed. And by 10th level, you have an advantage. You have a bonus to your initiative rolls equal to your wisdom modifier in terrains to which you're accustomed.
So you have you get another gacha game here. Collect them all the terrains. However, this time you just need to grab a grassland, a coast, a desert, and a mountain. Rather than
I should have called this Master Explorer.
It's pretty good.
We might revise this in the future with a different name.
Anyway, you get these like little features, and all of these to me just feel more flavorful than like powerful to add to a ranger. Because as a ranger, you should be good at walking around and like you should be able to swim, like you should be able to climb a rock face. Like that's what it means the most to be a ranger to me, is navigating difficult terrains. So the ability to do so with these features feels very natural to put on it.
Yeah, and I tried to really simplify it to stuff that really matters in gameplay. Like, I wanted stuff like advantage on saving throws against the effects of weather and wilderness hazards to be there. Because if you are, accustomed to swamps, right? You're a character that you start out, you pick swamp as your thing, and the players are traveling through a marshland, and you run into like a quicksand like trap, right? That's something that you, as a character, it makes sense that you're familiar with the land and its hazards. You should know what to do there. But the way the current ranger works, you're just as stupid as everyone else with quicksand. You don't know what to do. And at least in this one now, you have something, right? You have advantage on your saving throws to avoid it. And I thought stuff like that was really important to bring in, even though it's so niche, just because, like, I don't know, that's important to me if I were playing a ranger, is having that little bit of skill.
I completely agree. I mean, it just seems fun for you to be good about that. Also, that's the kind of like small detail ability that I think most new players will forget. But that's one that when you remember that you have this feature, like, oh wait, I'm from this natural terrain, so I can try and get out of this a little bit better. Like I'm familiar with this terrain. That's like kind of a fun player moment, and I feel like that comes up. That's something that actually I think is good that comes out of Favored Enemy and Natural Explorer in their original implementations, is sometimes people have the fun of remembering that they're features, and this just does that, I think, better even. So
Exactly. I mean, that's the whole point, is rewarding you for doing the thing that you want to do, which is explore. That's what these two features are really all about. Favorite Enemy was all about exploring the types of enemies that you can fight. And that's what that was the intention of the feature, the design intent, and the mechanics just didn't follow through with it. It just didn't work. And I hope that Ranger's Intuition will do that. And then with Adaptive Explorer, it's the same kind of vibe, right? Natural Explorer was all about exploring these terrains and like learning them and gaining benefits and becoming a master of these different environments. And it just didn't do that mechanically. And hopefully this does.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've achieved that, Jeremy. But
yeah, and Frosty was saying it could be fun. I've been thinking of a Monster Hunter kind of game. Yeah, I could see this being really, really cool on like, especially if you wanted to play like a Foe Slayer Ranger. I think it's the Foe Slayer, isn't it? Or is it called Monster Slayer? It's probably Monster Hunter.
I think it's.
I don't know.
I think it's Monster Slayer.
Monster Slayer. We said all the words. The Ranger is all about hunting big monsters. I think these two features would just be so fitting for that subclass.
Monster Slayer confirmed.
Monster Slayer. There we go. Also, weird little sidebar here, because at 14th level on the Ranger's Intuition, the feature I gave was you have advantage on saving throws against the non-magical abilities of creatures of the types you've encountered. I went and I like looked at a couple of monsters to figure out, because I didn't want you to gain advantage on like spells from liches, for example, because you have undead. But it's weird the kind of things that are magic and not magic in 5e. Like, for example, the frightening presence of or the breath weapons of dragons. Neither of those are magical.
See, the breath weapons would make sense to be magical to me. The frightening presence, not.
Yeah, well, they're both natural. They're both, supernatural abilities, but they're not magical in the context of 5e. Weirdly enough, the Medusa's petrifying gaze is the exact same. It is not magic in 5e. Which is a weird distinction.
Yeah, it is. I assume this is because it doesn't say that it's magic.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly. Yeah, that's one of those things that I think is open to some homebrew interpretation too. Like if you want to make those things magical, but also if you don't, you don't. But
it's just fun,
Yeah, no, it's an interesting.
It's
Yeah,
almost like
just
it's a
as before.
natural ability of the creature, which is why I think it's not magic. I think that the main distinction is magic is like extraplanar in nature or learned, right? It's like sorcery or wizardry for the most part.
Yeah, these are the Ranger variants, and I think that puts us at a great time to take a break, Jeremy. Right at 10 o'clock, which we haven't done in a long time.
Yeah. All right. So again, check these guys out, please. I would appreciate your feedback and your thoughts on this kind of thing. Frosty, if you end up playing with us at all, I'd love to hear how it goes. If you or any of your players want to use these. And yeah, I think we'll be right back, guys. And when we come back, Pete, what are we going to do?
We're gonna be looking at a few things from Reddit. I have a few that I'm excited to check out and see what other homebrewers out there in the world are up to. So we'll be looking at those shortly.
All right. We'll be back in just a second.
See you soon.